Wednesday, June the 26th. Lake level's just a little under 917, about the same as it was last week. They've been generating quite a bit of water, and apparently there's some water coming in from Beaver. Water temperature's really getting up there. It's been hot out there the last few days. It's probably 82 and a half, 83 in the morning, and it depends where you go on the lake. If you get up in the river arms, you'll see some high 80s. The fish have been biting pretty good though. There's a lot of different things going on. If you're fishing down in the clear water, the drop shot seems to be about the most consistent bite going on. And the worms there's a lot of different colored worms that are working good for me, but probably day in and day out is this little chompers. And they call it's a brown purple laminated worm. And I've got it rigged up on a 1/4 ounce or 3/8 ounce weight. Another one that's working good is just a plum chompers, and I've got some that a friend of mine's been hand pouring for me that are the same colors, and I really don't think it's so much the type of worm as long as it's a small finesse worm. The robo worms are working good, the Konami worms. This is a zoom, it's called Old Purple, it's working good. Now most of the drop shot fish have been anywhere from 25 to 35 foot deep. As it gets a little hotter, the lake's going to develop a thermocline and it'll be more consistent. Now in the mornings, there's still been a topwater bite. I mean, we caught them for about almost 2 hours this morning on a topwater. When they would go down, we could catch them on a white spoon or a drop shot. And the types of things we was fishing was deep boat docks on the main lake. Seemed like the boat docks got to have 40 or 50 foot of depth around them. And there's certain pockets and coves that you'll find that have consistently got bait fish in them from day to day. And in the morning, like I say, it was a little overcast today, so they stayed up on top for quite a while. We caught them on a redfin, straight redfin, a jointed redfin, and also a spook. And like I said, when they went down, we caught them just casting the drop shot out like you would a Texas rig worm and let it fall to about 20 feet, then work it back to the boat real slow. Now most of these fish we caught were out over anywhere from 50 to as deep as 100 foot of water. Now later, once the sun gets up good, it seems like you can catch the drop shot fish out over the flats on the main lake flat points or just off the edges where they roll off. And what you want to look for is a main lake flat point or a secondary point where there's at least one channel on one side where it's, in case they're not up on top, just work out to the edge where it rolls off. And you'll either see them right at the edge of the roll off or out there just a little bit suspended over the deeper water. Now football jig's been working some of the same areas. It's just a mixture of things going on. I've got to spend a little bit of time up in the river arms, like from Ann's Creek on up. They're biting like a Strike King Series 6 crankbait, a chartreuse shad or a sexy shad, also a fat free shad in a citrus color. I'm sure there's a lot of other crankbaits that they'll bite. They should bite like a DT16 as well. But I hadn't been getting a lot of bites on the on the crankbaits. What I'm having to do is fish some of those core brush piles, if you can find them shallow enough, and just run them crankbaits through them and bounce it off them. And also the football jigs, a 5/8, a 3/4 ounce pig sticker football jig or a jewel jig or a chompers. And I've been using a green pumpkin purple, green pumpkin orange, and I've been using a Zoom Speed Craw as a trailer. Now as that water gets a little warmer, I'm starting to use a baby brush hog for trailer. I'm using a bigger profile bait and also catching some bigger fish on it. Carolina rig will work in the same place you're throwing a football jig. Now the football jig fish on the main lake hadn't got real deep yet. I mean, I've been setting in 30 to 35 foot, casting up to 15 to 18 foot and working it back to the boat. And whenever I get a couple bites, if I can figure out exactly what depth they're in, then I'll try to keep the boat in that depth range and either cast ahead of the boat or work it behind the boat. And we've also been starting to catch some fish on a Texas rig worm. Now where I'll throw a Texas rig worm over a Carolina rig is when you find these brush piles that I was talking about where you could catch them on a crankbait. I'll run the crankbait through a couple times and then I'll either run a football jig or a big worm. And the worms that I like to throw I like a ringworm. This one here is a Lucky Strike. A lot of the zoom worms will also work. This is a Jean LaRue. It's a 9-inch worm. I like something that's got a pretty big tail, that's got a lot of tail action and some ribs on it. And what I like about the ribs and the tail, as it's falling through the water, it'll actually make a little vibration and a little noise. And where I'm fishing this is where I've got water visibility about 3 to 4 feet. But depends on how deep. Some of these brush piles are 20 foot deep, so I'm throwing a 1/2 ounce tungsten weight. It doesn't have to be tungsten. Lead will work, but the tungsten's a little bit smaller profile. And I'm using a 4-aught hook. And I've been catching some decent fish on the jig and the worm out of some of these brush piles. Now that should just get better as the water gets warmer. It seems like a lot of, there's still some fish up in the shallows, up in the bushes, up in the rivers, but I'm finding there's more of them moving out on like the river flats and ledges and drops, and that should just continue to get better. Now I know last weekend they had a tournament out of Kimberling, and I believe it was won up in one of the river arms flipping bushes. I don't know whether it was flipping a jig or a creature bait. But like I say, I hadn't had a chance in the past week to spend any time up in the bushes. A lot of the stuff I've been fishing has been offshore. And that bite seems to be getting better and better, which it should have been happening about a month ago, 3 weeks ago. But now if the temperature's finally getting up there, the fish are starting to move back out of the shallows with the water dropping a little bit and starting to set up on a lot of them structure spots. So like I said again, that should just continue to get better. So till next week, good luck, good fishing.